Are your meta ads showing way fewer conversions than your actual sales? If so, your tracking is fundamentally broken and you are losing data without even realizing it. Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're tackling pixel versus server-side tracking. We're going to look at why there's this massive gap between what your ad manager tells you and what's actually hitting your bank account, and exactly how you can fix it.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 40%. That is the staggering amount of ad data, your actual hard-earned purchase data, that you could be bleeding right now. Up to 40% of your mobile traffic attribution is literally just vanishing into thin air. You're paying for those clicks, right? You're paying for the conversions, but your ad platform is completely blind to them.
There's a quote from our source material today that I absolutely love because it just draws this permanent line in the sand. It says, media buyers who rely on browser pixels are guessing. Operators who use server-side tracking control their data. Think about the weight of that for a second. If you're missing 40% of your data, you're not optimizing anything, you're guessing. But when you actually control the data at the server level, you stop hoping for results and you start engineering them.
Now you know exactly what this discrepancy feels like in practice. Have you ever opened up your Shopify or Stripe dashboard, seen an amazing day of sales, felt that rush, and then you click over to your Meta Ads Manager, only to see a tiny fraction of those purchases actually reported? If you're nodding your head right now, yeah, your tracking is broken. That widening gap between real revenue and reported revenue is exactly the symptom we're diagnosing today. So let's get into section 1, the hidden data leak, and exactly why the Pixel is failing us. Look, the original Facebook Pixel was an amazing piece of tech when it first launched, but today, it's basically a dinosaur. The Pixel relies entirely on the user's browser to send data back to Meta, and the browser is a hostile environment now. First, you've got Safari's intelligent tracking prevention blocking things after 24 hours. You've got Google phasing out third-party cookies with Privacy Sandbox. And, of course, the absolute wrecking ball that was Apple's iOS 14 update. Modern browsers are like guarded fortresses, and your vulnerable little pixel is getting rejected at the gate every single day. And this brilliantly illustrates what that looks like in the real world. Let's say you're spending $100 a day. You spend the 100 and Meta reports 3 sales. Based on that, your campaign looks like a total loser, right? Time to turn it off. But then you look at Stripe and you actually had 5 sales. Because the browser lost the data for those 2 extra sales, your cost for acquisition looks artificially inflated. And the absolute worst part is, because Meta doesn't see those other buyers, its algorithm starts optimizing for the wrong audience entirely. You're actively mistraining the AI. Which brings us to section 2, server-side tracking explained, or what I like to call the direct pipeline. Enter the conversions API, often just called CAPI. Instead of waiting around for a customer's browser to hopefully send a signal back to Meta, server-side tracking bypasses that completely. When a payment goes through, your server, like Stripe for example, sends a secure server-to-server message directly to the ad platform. It's pure first-party data. There are no ad blockers on your server, right? There are no iOS 14 pop-ups. It is infinitely more reliable. Just look at these two side by side. On the left, the old browser Pixel. It's standing out in the open, highly vulnerable, easily blocked by everything. Totally prone to data loss. On the right, server-side tracking. It is a direct, unblockable data pipeline. It is quite literally the difference between trying to mail a flimsy postcard in the middle of a hurricane versus sending a heavily encrypted email over a private network. But hold on. Section 3, the fatal implementation mistake. We really need to talk about this, because this is where things get genuinely dangerous for your ad account. So, the crucial point is this. You cannot just blindly flip on server-side tracking while keeping your old browser pixel running exactly as it was. If you use both of these systems incorrectly, you will break your tracking drastically worse than if you had just done nothing. Meta is going to get a purchase event from the browser and then an identical purchase event from the server. Suddenly, it thinks you made twice as much money. You get duplicate conversions, your event match quality tanks, and your return on ad spend becomes pure fiction. It's a fatal mistake. All right, section 4, how to fix your tracking. We know the pixel is dying, we know server-side is the fix, and we know we can't mess up the setup. To actually bypass the browser and deduplicate your events perfectly, you have to establish absolute control over 3 very specific things. 1, the correct event structure, so both systems speak the exact same language. 2, proper data routing, so Meta actually accepts the JSON payload you send. And 3, a highly specific make.com webhook setup to physically extract the identifiers from your payment gateway. These are the mandatory ingredients to make this work.
Now listen, I'm not going to sit here and read off lines of code or make you watch me configure webhooks for an hour. Getting the architecture wrong even slightly causes that duplication nightmare we just talked about. So to fix this properly, I've broken down the exact setup, the technical architecture, and the step-by-step blueprint in the full guide below. Don't try to guess this from scratch. Click the link in the description, get the blueprint, and deploy it perfectly the very first time.
Finally, Section 5, the end results and reclaiming your ROAS. Let's look at what actually happens when you secure this data flow.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that dramatic shift in event match quality, or EMQ. That's Meta's internal grade for how well it matches an event to a real user. With the old Pixel, you're lucky to hit a 5 out of 10. The algorithm is just starving for data. But look at the difference. When you implement proper server-side tracking, advertisers routinely see their scores stabilize consistently above an 8.0. Your cost volatility drops, and your campaigns finally get predictable. The end result of getting this dialed in is massive. You get accurate, unblockable tracking. You get stable, reliable ROS targets because your numbers reflect reality. And most importantly, you get way better algorithm optimization. When Meta actually sees your best customers, it goes out and finds you more of them.
So I'll leave you with this one provocative question. Will you secure your data pipeline today, or will you just keep paying for blind guesses? The browser Pixel is practically a fossil at this point, and every day you rely on it, you're leaving up to 40% of your data on the table. The fix is right there. Click the link in the description to grab the full server-side blueprint and take absolute control of your tracking. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.